I have this friend who doesn't struggle with crippling anxiety, and she informed me today that when she does a task, she just focuses on the task. Like, that's all she thinks about. For example, we were doing an errands day and we stopped by the grocery store, and I was thinking about all the horrible things that could happen at the grocery store, right? I was making a list in my head, as one does. And I was thinking, what if these were my last moments at the grocery store? What if this was it for me in life? What would I say? What would my last words be? I would want them to be funny. I would want the people around me to have a funny memory. And I didn't think those thoughts were weird because I live up here. I have these thoughts all the time. And when I was telling my friend about them, she was horrified. Apparently, while she was just 5 feet away from me in the store and I was having all those thoughts, she was thinking, should I be naughty and pay $7 for the flaxseed bread, or should I be extra naughty and pay 69 cents for the white bread? Like, that's what she was thinking. She was just focused on, she was just buying bread. Except she wasn't even having those specific kinds of thoughts because apparently she doesn't have an inner monologue. Her brain just takes in information and then makes decisions. And I don't understand not having an inner monologue. I was like, what? You don't have an inner monologue? Don't you get lonely? You don't have conversations with yourself in your own head? And she said, no, I pay attention to people when they're talking. That's what I do.
Am I wrong for calling my coworker a nosy B-word after she kept insisting to know my husband's salary? My husband and I have both 33, been together since college. And over the past years, he's had quite the career trajectory. He's a quant PM and makes 10 times what I make, and I make a good salary. As we've got wealthier, I've learned that people become nosier. Friends, acquaintances, relatives, you name it. In the beginning, I would entertain the nosy questions, but since I've turned 30, I've adopted a take no shit attitude. So when people ask me how much he makes, I no longer say anything. Because I've learned the hard way that giving an exact number can have bad consequences. So my coworker 25 is new and she already has quite the reputation. Very chatty, catty, gossipy, you get the gist. You can tell she just craves wealth and status and she wears a bunch of flashy designer items. And she's always asking the ladies around the office which of the men are single. Am I wrong for calling my coworker a nosy B-word after she kept insisting to know my husband's salary? So last Friday, the office hosted an afternoon happy hour. She approached me asking how me and my husband's recent vacation to Europe went, and I told her how it went and briefly summarized what we did. Then the conversation went something like this. She asked me what my husband did, and I said he works in finance. Then she said, oh wow, he must make a ton to be taking you on all the lavish vacations. I hope you don't mind me asking, but how much does he make in a year? I responded, yes, we're very lucky that he makes a good salary, and politely smiled. Then she said, oh, come on, I won't tell anyone. How much does he make? Millions? Then I gave an awkward chuckle and said I'd rather not say, but it's up there. Then she said, what? He doesn't allow you to give an exact number? And I thought the stuck-up one would be the one with money. That's when I said you should learn how to take no for an answer and when to quit being a nosy B-word. Am I wrong for locking my girlfriend inside for her own good? So my 22 male girlfriend, 21 female, has a bit of wanderlust. I'm almost positive she has some form of ADHD because she's incredibly forgetful and at times careless. She'll do things like leave her purse, books, phone, and at times keys in the car. Or she'll boil an egg on the stove and only remembers once the water has completely evaporated and it's burning. She always talks about how she'll get around to getting diagnosed and medicated but never does, and apparently she's been like this her whole life. Anyways, we recently moved in together to a house that belonged to my grandmother, but we both pay utilities, tax, and bills. It's been really great honestly, except for these little problems. The major issue right now is that at times she will leave through the back door in the middle of the night on walks. And she'll be gone for hours. We've had disagreements about this multiple times in the past where I told her it's dangerous and unsafe. Am I wrong for locking my girlfriend inside for her own good? So my girlfriend will leave the house in the middle of the night on walks and be gone for hours. She will leave around 1 to 2 a.m. to walk around our rural neighborhood for hours at a time. Sometimes even when her phone is on low battery, and I have no idea why she does it. She told me it's exercise and that she enjoys the solitude, but it makes me uncomfortable. I just worry about what could happen in the middle of the night with no one around, and she doesn't appreciate me coming with her too much. Worse yet, she'll leave the back door unlocked because she still hasn't gotten her own set of keys. So it's up to me to readmit my wayward girlfriend every few nights. So I've decided to draw my line and refuse to unlock the back door and had it locked from both ends, so she's forced to use the front door for her trips. But now she's incredibly frustrated and she's calling me controlling. I don't think I'm wrong when she refuses to behave like a literal sensible adult. Am I? Am I wrong for initially not believing my son when he said he was sick? I'm a 48-year-old single mom to 2 kids. We'll call them Rachel and Vic. Rachel recently turned 18 and she has a lot of chronic health issues that she's been struggling with since she was little. We've been blessed that she has a lot of good periods, but right now she's having some trouble, likely due to the stress of next year's graduation and all that entails. Needless to say, I've been kept pretty busy making sure she stays as healthy as possible, and I think Vic has always resented the extra attention his sister receives, which is understandable. I've always tried my best to make sure he also has special time devoted to him too, but I'd be lying if I said Rachel's health hasn't taken precedence. About a month ago, we had the good news that Vic will likely be graduating early due to academic excellence. I was so happy and congratulated him, but I noticed that since then his behavior seemed to be worse. He was more moody, short with me, and not eating the meals that I made. Am I wrong for initially not believing my son when he said he was sick? He was acting super moody, being short with me, and not eating the meals I made. Last week, I took Rachel to the doctors over a sinus issue, and while we were there, Vic called. He called from school saying he was in a lot of pain and could I take him home early. I told him he knew I was at the doctor with Rachel, and he got all pissy and said some not so nice things about me favoring her. I'll admit I jumped to conclusion and figured he was just trying to get attention since his early graduation news hadn't given him enough. So I told him that because of his bad attitude, I wouldn't be picking him up at all. When I got home, everything seemed normal, but when I called the kids down for dinner, Vic did not come. And when I checked his room, I quickly realized he was genuinely sick. I immediately rushed him to the doctor and apologized profusely for not believing him. I tried explaining where I was coming from, but he said if I was Rachel, I wouldn't have made that assumption. And since then, he hasn't really talked to me. Am I wrong for mostly ignoring my girlfriend on her birthday? So yesterday, we celebrated my male 23 girlfriend's 21st birthday. Her parents threw a big celebration with all her friends and family. For me personally, it was the first time I met anyone in the family with the exception of her parents. It was also her first birthday I celebrated with her because we've been dating for about 7 months. Now, I'm originally from Romania, from a region called Maramureş. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. I'm sorry, you guys. But I've been living abroad for 11 years now. My girlfriend mentioned at some point that one of her grandmothers was also from Romania, but we didn't discuss it in detail. So yesterday, I met my girlfriend's grandma, and what can I say? I couldn't believe how small the world was. Not only was she Romanian, but from the same country as me. So we talked and talked a lot, and she told me her life story. We reminisced about Baia Mare, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Am I wrong for mostly ignoring my girlfriend on her birthday? We reminisced about Baia Mare, and I really enjoyed the conversation, especially talking in my native language. And that's how I spent most of the party. Of course, when my girlfriend asked me to take photos with her, or when the cake came, I gave her my full attention, but for the most part, she spent time with her friends dancing and drinking, while I was just talking with her grandmother. I didn't pay it much mind, but after the party, when it was done, she told me she felt neglected by me during her birthday. And this morning, she seems pissed at me. Top comment says, nah, I would have thought she'd be excited you connect so well with her grandmother. Family approval makes relationships a lot easier. That being said, you probably could have done a better job at striking a balance between talking to her grandma and hanging out with her at her party. Another comment says 21 is a big birthday, so I can see her feeling neglected. Maybe you can make it up to her with a surprise night out and something special, but also she has to understand the connection. Am I wrong for denying an older woman shelter from a storm? I, 23 female, am an avid hiker in Australia. Last week, I encountered a middle-aged woman about 50 years old as I was coming off of a trail. She was walking in my direction as I came out of the bush, and it was really strange to see her. The sun was almost down and the weather was beginning to turn, and also this was an intermediate collection of trails at best, difficult even for me at worst, and she didn't even look super athletic. The point is, my weird radar was going off already. So she walked up to me and stopped, standing way too close for my comfort, and gestured towards the clearing where my car was parked. She asked me whether it was my car with no greeting or anything, and when I looked over, something made me uncomfortable. There were absolutely no cars other than mine in sight, and the trail I was on isn't crazy far from civilization, but it's not a walk away. It's one of those highway rest stops that's there for the trail and a few parking spots. No way she could have gotten there without driving.